sosiale media, waar ek meer as 5000 followers het ek onderneem, sou die All Blacks vandag weer, met die klem op weer verloor, dan brand ek hierdie trui. Nou hierdie trui kom met my aan vanaf 2011, toe daar nog All Black rugby was. Vandag sien ons nie meer All Black rugby nie, ons sien 'n klomp gemors op die rugbyveld. So ek moet my belofte gestand hou, dieselfde vuur, dieselfde gras, hy het nou net 'n bietjie 'n bars in, en dieselfde trui. So, op die Springbokke, wie voortaan my nuwe span gaan wees. Ja, en laat ek dan nou die ding doen. Waar gaan hy? All Blacks. Tot ziens. Tot ziens. Tot ziens. Ek ondersteun julle nie meer nie. Julle kan maar met wat se strategie nou kom. Dit is verby, dit is klaar. Daar sê. Tot ziens, All Blacks. Cheers op die bokke.
Good evening. Welcome to the Têkkel Talk Show. En daar is hy. Colin Hopley, wat besluit het, genoeg is genoeg. Ek is nie meer 'n All Blackie. Ek is nou 'n Springbok. Ja, baie goeie aand aan jou. Is hom lekker om die donderdag show so te begin?
Ja,
die All Blacks weer steeds tussen die bene huis toe.
Kyk, as jy baie kyk uit die laaste 2 jaar of 3 jaar, ek kan ons maar 'n bietjie gebruik het met 'n pokwen, maar 'n paar jaar terug was dit maar swaar jare geweest. Daar was 'n hele paar ouens wat hulle jerseys, pok jerseys so verbrand het. So, dis maar nie niets aan die groen en goud kant nie, maar ja, look, I mean, exciting box one, I'm happy. We all happy as box supporters, and looking forward to a fantastic weekend of rugby coming up.
No, for sure. And we have a jam-packed program as well. We know that we revealed earlier on, we have super sport commentator and rugby pundit Renier von Zeuner talking to us later on. We will get his impression, obviously, of what he thinks the All Blacks and Foster need to do to turn this around. I know there's a guy called Max on the line. I just see him commenting. Hy sê, hy wag vir ons is laat. Ons is so 2 minute laat. Maar natuurlijk het ons 'n paar goedjies wat ons gewoon moet uitsort. Goeienaand aan Max. Clayton Smith, goeienaand Bokke. En ons weet waarom Clayton vanaand ingeskakel is. Ons gaan later dit reveal. En dan Furlough Theron wat ook sê, goeienaand. En ons Furlough weet ons, het ook vir ons 'n tackle mail gedrop. So Furlough, baie dankie vir daardie interessante piek wat jy vir ons gegooi het. Ja, baie kom ons loer gou vinnig in daar by tackle mail. Ek dink Furlough tong in die kies. Daar is vir ons iets aangestuur. Daar is Furlough met die groot Eben Etzebeth. En Furlough natuurlik een van die nommer 1 ondersteuners wat Têkkel ondersteun. Hy was ook 'n gas voorheen op die Têkkel Talk Show en hy vra, hy sê daar vir Eben, lyk vir my, wen die All Blacks asseblief. En Eben dat daar so vir hom so kyk en Eben wat waar vir hom 'n baie interessante antwoord gee. Furlough, baie dankie daarso. Furlough al die pad daar van Mamasbury. Dan het ons vir AB Collins daar from Napier in New Zealand. You know, we got a few comments out in the public, you know. We were walking and the toppie pulled over to shout that we gave them a good walloping. Ja, nee, wat? Dat ek wil amper sê, ja, Berik, baie makliker, in my opinie, baie makliker vir die bokke as wat ek gedink het. Ja, tawe wedstryd, All Blacks mooi gehou met verdediging, maar dit was makliker om die All Blacks te wen as wat ek aanvanklik gedink het dit gaan wees.
No, exactly. I mean, if you look at the upcoming weekends, there is fixtures coming up, and also looking at the results, 26-10, it's quite a big score. I mean, I think it's the 5th biggest score that the Boks have, that New Zealand has suffered over the many years of New Zealand rugby. So it's a big win after all. It could have been much bigger, and we'll talk about that a bit later. But I definitely think we could have definitely put in maybe another 1 or 2 tries. I think the Boks were short of just some clinical finishing, but nonetheless, still a big win after all.
No, for sure. And we spoke about the score line last week. We started a Super Brew pool and we asked, what do you think will be the margin between the Springboks and the All Blacks specifically? We also played a devil's advocate with regards to the Argentine-Australian game. But there were a lot of people that said the Springboks will win with more than 10 points. And I obviously said, I don't believe that the Springbok test between the Springboks and the New Zealand will be a bigger margin than 6 points. But there you have it. There you have it. You have Clayton Smith calling him CR7, topping the log Alberic. Hy het nie altyd net reg geraai nie, maar ook sy margins dodelik reg gekry. En daar sit hy nou top of the log. Ons weet hy's ingeskakel. Hy sal van 6 uur af ingeskakel. Hy wou net hê ons moet sê hy is vir week 1 op die Têkkel Talk Show Superbroer log, top of the log. Kom ons hoop hy kan daar bo bly en hy is nie soos die Franse wat net skrik maak op die IRB rankings nie.
Yeah, no, look, I need the competition between us is between, you know, where you were number 5 now. Well done, man. And I'm laying on the second page, which is number 13. But yeah, we both predicted the same team, and the same teams to win. And obviously, you know, Aussies coming through against the RGs was also a big one for them, despite the fact that Michael Hooper was, you know, pulled himself out of contention for that match. But yeah, again, you know, the results showing clearly on the pool, the guys supported, and they were pretty spot on. Big up to CR7, Clayton Smith coming through there. Bluebird, which is Ambrose Woodboy, and yeah, he was quite a good you know, competitor last year's tournament. So definitely see him to be up there as well. So yeah, still early days, man.
Wie is daar wat potjie kos maak? Ek sien daar se houtlepel heel laat.
Ja, houtlepel Leon, ja. Kyk, Leon wys ons jou foto asseblief. Leon wil graag sien wat jy van die naweek gaan maak met hy houtlepel. Was dit 'n currypot of 'n hoenderpot? Laat weet ons asseblief.
Nee, verseker. Daar so Superbroer log natuurlik en ons gaan sommer lekker saam speel hierdie naweek weer eens 'n geleentheid vir jou om op te skuif op hy log, maar natuurlik ook 'n geleentheid vir jou om af te skuif op die log. Hy boer een van die manne wat daar aan die onderkant van die punteleer lê wat net sê it's early days boys. Ja, nee, kyk, ek hoop regtig. Daar's Clayton Smith wat net bedank Clayton baie dankie. Dit lyk vir my of jy jou storie ken. Hulle sê is maklik om bo te kom, maar om aan bo te bly is 'n ander saak. Ja, Berry, dit was maar altyd jy weet 'n moeilike enetjie vir jou. Jy het gesê dat jy hierdie jaar weer eens boek aan my gaan eindig. Ons gaan kyk. Soos Eybrief gesê het, early days hy nie. Early days. So, don't get too comfortable. Don't get too comfortable. So guys, thank you for joining, and just remember, there will be a prize at the end of the season. We will be giving away a sublimated Têkkel Talk Show rugby jersey if you top the pool at the end of the season. We will also make contact with our weekly winners. So Clayton Smith, jy kan 'n oproepie van ons verwag om net so ietsie van ons kant af ook te kry, maar daar is waarvoor ons speel 'n pragtige Têkkel Talk Show rugby jersey met jou naam op. Aan die einde van die seisoen gaan ons daardie kampioen vir die Têkkel Talk Show Superbroer pool gaan ons kroon. Is dit jy of gaan dit een van myself of Alberic wees? Dit remains to be seen. Casey Mbadazo net sê dis 'n marathon man. Nee, kyk,
dit is so lank.
En die margins, ja, die margins is klein, hè? Die margins is baie klein tussen die.
Ja, 100%. Ek wil gesê die manne praat van marathon is net so as die your senior ouens. So asseblief kry julle pieks reg. Ek is op hy se hakke so don't get too comfy guys. You need to keep it up. You need to keep up the pace. Clayton na klaar die pace geset, so ons kan nie te ver agter wees.
Ja, ons moet nou vir hom inhaal. Maar ja, julle is nie hier om na ons te luister nie. Ons het natuurlik gesê we have a super sport commentator, rugby pundit and journalist. We have him in as a visitor. Ek wil amper sê alipad van Keiserspier of van Pretoria, maar hy is all the way from the Super Sport Studios, Mr. Renier von Zeuner. Yes, hy laat dan vir ons sommige tye skater lag met sy goed. Maar daar is hy, 'n rugby kenner van formaat. Renier, welcome to the Têkkel Talk Show. What an honor and a privilege to have you on. I'm pretty sure a lot of people online would love to have a chat with you. Welcome. And I'm pretty sure you will entertain us with that persona of yours.
really lekker to be here, and I've been keeping an eye on what you guys are doing, and all the way from lockdown. It's lekker to see the audience grow and the platform grow. And ek is 'n bietjie nervous dat ek nog nie my Superbroek pics ingekry het nie, maar ek sal maar vir klein in 'n DM stuur en net hoor wat dink hy is die move vir die tweede toets, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, guys, it's an honor and a privilege for me to be on board and to have a chat with you tonight. It's always lekker coming on board and chatting about rugby and chatting about the box when we in between All Black tests, and it looks like we're going to give them a hiding twice in a row, so it makes our job a lot easier.
Lekker. And with that said, Renier, I mean, we briefly chatted about just your background. You mentioned you're from Kuilsrivier, and baie goeie goed kom van Kuilsrivier. Ek sê maar net. Maar you're based now in Pretoria, if I'm not mistaken. Where did it all go for you? You into Afrikaans commentary. Waar het alles begin? Hoe het jy daar opgeëindig? En is dit net maar die liefde vir sport, of is dit maar jy Engels of Afrikaans nodig? Wat het jy nodig om hy step up te maak as kommentator?
Kyk, ons lag altyd daaroor. Ek sê maar altyd vir mense, ek weet daar's nie vreeslik baie ouens wat betaal word om Afrikaans te wees nie. So it's lekker vir my to get to talk rugby in my mother language. Is altyd lekker. En jy weet ek kom uit die Kaap uit toe die province nog 'n sterk union was. Jy weet toe die Currie Cup nog groot was. Ek sê altyd vir mense ek onthou my eerste pak slaag wat ek gekry het as 'n laaitie was my pa wou by Nieuweland uitgekom het. En ek was nie seker of ek gaan saamgaan en nee, ek was so 3-4 jaar oud gewees. En toe het my gesê, luister, ek gaan nou vir jou 'n pak slaag gee en dan klim jy in die kar want jy moet by Nieuweland kom saam met my. En jy weet, hy het toe skuldig gevoel na die game toe koop hy vir my 'n jersey en dit was my eerste jersey gewees en ek het dit nog steeds en jy weet al die jare later ek was gelukkig genoeg om jy weet bietjie rond te travel en op varsity het ek in radio betrokke geraak en did a bit of radio work en al daai goedjies en slyp ouma so af in jou interview skills en bou so 'n bietjie netwerk op en so oor die industrie is maar klein. So en toe jy weet one thing led to another 2015 Kruiwenweek het die ouens van Supersport het hulle uitgereach na my toe en gevra luister as jy bereid is ons is by Paul Roos die naweek kom kyk 'n bietjie hoe lyk dit kom gooi 1 of 2 games en kyk of jy belangstel om dit te doen en as hy sê the rest is history. Ek meen is so 'n lekker job om te hê en is lekker om die land vol te travel en rugby te kyk. So ja, en ek is onder geen illusie dat ek verskriklik honored is om die job te hê wat ek het nie en jy weet dis so amazing om met ouens soos julle te praat wat nie net die rugby ondersteun nie maar ook jy weet die commentators ondersteun en die media kant van dit ondersteun. Dit maak 'n groot verskil. Is altyd lekker.
Nee, verseker. En ek dink Renier, ek dink jy met groot respek om te weet, jy weet om jou storie te kon gevolg het van waar jy begin het in 2015 en ek wil amper sê die leertjie geklim het en baie van die kere dan jy weet die mense verloor uit die oog uit hoeveel voorbereiding gaan in om regtig waar voor hy kamera in te skuif en statistieke en jy weet in memories en die goedes sommer soos 'n encyclopedia half uit jou kop uit te onthou. Vertel gou vir ons in terme van jou wat begin het by die Kruiwenweek van waar jy nou sit op Uncontested, die program se naam natuurlik op Supersport. Hoeveel voorbereiding gaan daar in om werklik waar ouens soos ons wat net televisie wil kyk 'n bietjie nie net te vermaak nie maar ook 'n bietjie in te lig oor die wonderlike sport van rugby en sport as 'n geheel.
Kyk, ek het toe ek begin na by die eerste Kruiwenweek by Paul Roos, dis eintlik iets wat 'n ou weet hoe om voor te berei nie. So jy kom as wel vir aan en jy vat maar meer papier en pen en jy hoop maar net you're going to end up somewhere right. Ek sal nooit vergeet nie. Ek het die eerste oggend was ek gelukkig en bevoorreg genoeg om by die trappies op te stap saam met ouma Hugh Blyden. En ek sê toe vir hom oom Hugh, you know, it's amazing to see you at Kruiwenweek en is koud en is Stellenbosch in die winter en is reën en hy sê, you know what my boy, this is where the future Springboks are made. They're 17 years old, they're 18 years old, they have not been jaded by the system, they're approachable and this is where you build connections. En ek sal nooit vergeet die, dat 'n ou swaaf, dit was Damien Willems se Kruiwenweek gewees en ou Embroes Papier se Kruiwenweek, Cohen Bosch was daar. En ek sou nooit vergeet jy het so 'n geleentheid om met daai ouens te gesels as skoollaities. En nou kom hulle op 'n plek waar ouens soos Damien Willems speel die beste rugby van sy karier En ek is bevoorreg genoeg om te sê, weet ek volg sy carrière ook al vandat hy, jy weet, Grand Como gespeel het, van Kruivenweek af en sovoorts. So mense begin nogal goedjies onthou en jy weet, jy praat maar met 'n ou se family langs die skoolveld en dan praat jy maar met die en daai en so en jy bou so of amper maar so half klereprentjie in rondom 'n speler. Obviously die navorsing is maar belangrik, maar jy weet ek is ook bevoorreg genoeg om te weet dat ouens soos julle kyk die game en dit is nie noodwendig vir julle belangrik om elke keer te hoor hoe lank 'n ou is of jy weet so mens moet maar so 'n bietjie X-faktor na die tafel te probeer bring van tyd tot tyd en jy weet praat 'n bietjie oor 'n ou se family en praat oor sy geskiedenis en jy weet praat oor die goeders wat vir hom belangrik is. So mens bou so 'n narrative op wat jou deur 80 minute dra. Uit die aard van die saak is die vloei van 'n rugby game elke keer anders. So mens moet jou fallbacks hê en jy moet jou navorsing agter mekaar hê. Ek was nog nooit 'n goeie student gewees hier skool gaan was nie my forte gewees nie. So ek moet hom maar so half kram en indruk die week voor 'n game en dan op 'n Sondagoggend is dit grootliks al weg. Maar nee, daar's goeders wat mense onthou en dis maar storieetjies en staaltjies wat jou deur die 80 minute vat. Jy weet spesiale goeders wat mense onthou van 'n ou toe hy op skool gespeel het of toe hy op Karibeker vlak gespeel het of wat ook al die geval mag wees.
Fantastic. And with that said, you obviously met a wide range of players. I mean, you mentioned from Cravenweek. Who are the kind of personas or personalities that you've kind of either got attached to or players that you've got a relationship with or maybe the highs and lows that you've experienced over the years. So I'm sure there's a lot of, especially with that nervous doing the Cravenweek, you could imagine a lot of kids that you don't know the names, but growing up, well, not growing up, I mean watching these guys from a young age, was there any players that stood out for you, highlights over your career? Kids that made a difference. For example, like the David Williamses, players that maybe made an impact on you as a commentator.
For me, the most important. It's such a lekker question because I answer it the same way that anyone else would answer it, and it's you remember the first time you see someone playing and you think, "Yo, this laddie's special. He's got something that other kids don't." Ek het vir Elrig Lou sien speel op skool. Ek ken sy pa hier van die Vaal af en to see him play at schoolboy level and you think to yourself, yeah, hierdie is massive. Ek onthou I called the Paul Derby toe Salman Murad die kaptein was van Boys Eye. And to see the level of dominance that he put on the table. I called a Garsfontein game when Ambrose Papier went 105 meters to score for Garsfontein to win the Beale Trophy. And that's when these guys started. So when the kind of the wheel turns and you get to the URC level or test match level and you speak to these guys as adults now, it's funny to see how they've grown up, but it's lekker to know that there's nothing better when it comes to sport is for you guys to sit around the table or to sit around the TV on the weekend and a guy does something spectacular and you go, ek het vir jou gesê. Yeah. I told you this light, he's got it. He's got X factor. He's going to go far. And you weet, Salman Murad, I'll always remember him as the leadership that he showed as a schoolboy was just fantastic to see. It's major. Damien Willems, he was madness to see as a schoolboy level. And then another thing that we also sometimes forget is with Varsity Cup and Varsity Shield and so forth, you get to go to the Eastern Cape every now and again, and then you see these rough diamonds, laities wat jy weet alsof van 'n vergete skool was and die Varsity threw them a bone to get them into Varsity Shield, and that turned them into something special. I mean, soos Lita Ankula wat fullback speel by Shimla's, regtig special. Hy gaan volgende jaar Cheetahs toe. En jy weet, for my, that's the thing that makes it all worth it, is you see these lighties and to play a small part in their career, because what happens is they'll score a try and they'll ask for the video clip and the highlight or whatever, and it'll be my voice on that memory for them. So it's a special way of looking at the job, and it's always lekker to have a player come up to you and go, yeah, I saw this clip and I sent it to my mom and she said, yo, I'm so proud of you. And to be associated with that memory is special.
Yeah, that's great. We know there's a lot of questions. If you have a question online, to our audiences, you have a question for Renier, pop it into our comment bar, and if it's obviously something that we have time for, we will show it on the screen. So any question, we know we've seen him on television, we know he's got a very broad vocabulary, but also a very, very broad knowledge of rugby. So you are welcome to pop in a question. Just before we switch over to the All Black Springboks discussions with Renier, similarly, Renier, you've seen a lot of players, and you've mentioned some of the players that gone through to become professional rugby players. I believe that there was one player perhaps in your mind, one or two players that you thought at schoolboy level, this guy is going to make it big time. But somewhere along the line, it just didn't happen. Who's that one or two players that stand out for you? Having watched the Cravenbeek, Grand Como right through to junior box, is there one player that you thought this player will become a superstar, but due to circumstances and wrong choices and perhaps injuries, that player just didn't come through?
It's a tough question, young. You look at a guy at schoolboy level and you think, he's got the makings of it. He can go all the way. What I am lucky is the guys that I think had the chops to go all the way but didn't make it. None of them got involved with crime or whatever the case may be, or they turned their back on the sport or whatever. The guy that played, I always think he's probably the best scrum half that I think we missed, is the guy that played 9 inside Damien Willemse at Paulrus when they were in high school, Tian Kutsia. I was beyond impressed with him. And then the thing is also, like, it's amper moeilik, because jy sien 'n ou soos Ben Jason Dixon of Salman Morat, ou wat hulle perform, en dan sit amper so vir 2 jaar, there's not a lot going on. En dan dink jy, ons het hom gemis hierso, and then suddenly they pop up somewhere. Ek dink ons verloor so baie talent wat oorsee gaan, en dit help nooit nie. Het sal lekker wees om van die laities locally bietjie te kan kry om te jol en so, maar ek verstaan ook, jy weet, ouens moet geld maak, en ek is 100% vir dit. Maar ja, ek dink, gelukkig soos ek sê, ek kan nie dink aan een ou wat off the top of my head, wat ek dink, dit sal lekker gewees het om te sien nie. Ek sou graag weer wil sien dat ouens soos Ambrose Papier kans gegee word by die Bulls om proper rugby te speel. Ek sal graag wil sien wat maak 'n ou soos Chris Smith as hulle vir hom 'n ordentlike geleentheid gee op 'n groter platform, en ja, soos ek sê, daar's ouetjie by die Shimlas, Lita en Kula, wat ek dink is regtig talentvol, en I'd love to see what he does at the next level, and then we'll know if I'm wrong or right.
Renier, ek het een van die ouens wat ek oogmerk het so 'n paar jaar terug, en ek het gedink, this guy is going to be a Springbok en 'n superstar, en sy naam was William Smalls, wat ek het hom gesien speel op skool, bietjie deur die ranks gekom by die Cheetahs, het gelyk op elke keer as ek hom op die televisie sien, lyk dit vir my die verband op sy knie dikker en dikker geraak. Ek weet nie of het 'n kniebesering is nie. William just didn't go on to become the Springbok that I thought he was going to be. Ek het gedink op skoolvlak, die boy het die credentials van 'n outside back, maar soos jy sê, jy weet, daar's soveel, baie van die kere speel jy in 'n era van 'n Jean de Villiers, 'n Jacques Fourie, 'n Brian Benner, JP Peterson, en jy is goed genoeg, maar net nie goed genoeg in daai era nie. So daar's baie faktore seker wat 'n rol speel. Ja. En ek het nog vir jou die vraag gevra, toe ek nog vir jou, terwyl ek die vraag vir jou vra, kom die seun se prentjie, ek weet hy vir die Cheetahs op 'n tyd, het hy sommer wing gespeel op 'n tyd vir die Cheetahs opgeëindig.
Sy jonger broer was so 2 jaar terug in matriek gewees al by Grey College, en Smalley is een van die ouens wat ek nogal dink, dis 'n so goeie antwoord op jou eie vraag. Jy weet, hy's een van daai dudes wat jy gedink het, like, hy het die juice, and he looked good. He looked like almost a Joe Peterson type player. He's a bit smaller, but he can move around the field, can play 13, can cover wing and 15 if he needs to. So ja, jy weet, dis die lekker ding van jy weet, the platform that you guys have as well, as we kind of table these conversations and whatever. Maar ja, Willie Small-Smith is a great een. Ek wonder nogal, ek dink sy broer is nou by die Sevens Academy, as ek nie verkeerd is.
Okay.
Maar ja, is daar rugby in daai bene. Maar ja, William Small-Smith is 'n bloody goeie antwoord.
That's awesome. And with that said, I mean, we spoke about it also in the previous weeks, Heini, the cards must fall right for you. You spoke about Makazolo Mpimpi, one of the few players that didn't, go through the usual ranks, of Cravenbeek, etc. But he managed to get through. But with that said, Renier, daar's seker in terme van jy's nou in die media wêreld nou, you know, there's a certain influence that the media also has in a player getting chosen or highlighted, etc. What is your opinion on that stance? That how much say does the media have in hyping a player up to get selected, and maybe convincing coaches or directors of rugby to look at certain players? How much impact does the media actually have?
Look, I mean, we discuss it often how impactful you can be, and I think the long and the short of it is, well, the genesis of the question is you gotta first get in a position to do something. So if you take a player like Lukhanyo Am is a good example. I think Lukhanyo Am is probably one of the better rugby players in the world at the moment. But whatever I say, irrespective of what I say, he still has to go out and perform. Where it does change is we as media have access to play the same clip over and over and over. We've got access to use it as an example when we go forward. And we talk about, what is the perfect position for a fullback to be in here? And there's a lighty that you think is worth mentioning, and you use that clip to kind of build a cachet towards that player. I think a lot of people have been burnt on that hill of, I want to push a player forward, and because at the end of the day, I have no control of what he does on the field. I can suggest he's a fantastic player, but his attitude towards the game will be snuffed out by a coach or by a director of rugby. What's he like? His name? Akker van Grey College. He's with the Bulls now. Young lighty. Either way, can't remember. But I think there's a lot of responsibility on media to say, look, if a player is good, put him forward and mention him and give him the credit that he deserves. But be wary of overstating the value of a youngster. We've got to sometimes understand, especially when it comes to young guys, that these guys are 17, 18, 19 years old. They've got a lot of growing up to do. We look at the game as a 30, 40 something, and we think, he can fit in well here. He can go the distance there. I love when a player performs well and I get to say he performs well. That's wonderful. And if that gets used in a way to get that player to the next level, that is what we are here for. That's what media is for. They perform over the 80 minutes and we'll give them the flowers they deserve. No worries. Whatever we say in media is not going to be enough to polish a player that isn't good enough. Yeah.
100%. No, for sure. And then you need to back it up. Elberg and Renier over the weekend popped in at a place, had a bit of an analysis chat at a place called Heroes, a restaurant in Brackenfell. And one of my comments was, I don't believe that Willie Leroux is as an impactful player coming off the bench. Guess what happens? Willie Leroux comes off the bench with 3 minutes of playing time left. The All Blacks drop the ball. Willie picks it up. He scores and then runs to the crowd. I was absolutely chuckled by the crowd saying, wat praat jy? Kyk die ou. En my naam was met 'n plank geslaan in 3 minute gespeel teen Willie Leroux. So you need to be able to back it up with facts. All of a sudden something like that happened and say, wat wie jy van rugby?
And draai daai man in front, the audience turns on you quickly.
Yeah, no, and also with that said, he turned on us as well. I mean, I think the third test as well, the way he came up in that game, and he just made a massive difference. So yeah, no, ons moet maar ons woorde te tel, nie.
You need to have that balance.
You have to have that balance, yeah.
You moet actually that you got to back the players you like. I mean, daar sê die rede hoekom julle ouens doen wat julle doen, die rede dat julle following het is wat julle het. Is ouens by julle wil hoor wat julle te sê. Hulle wil hoor El sê nee, ons moet vir Willie speel op 15 en Hein sê nee, ons moet kom ons gee vir Warwick 'n kans of ons gee vir Fassie 'n kans of ons gee vir Gaza 'n kans of wat ook al. You weet, that's the thing is you guys got an audience, julle het mense wat wil hoor wat julle te sê het. Dit sal 'n boring gewees het as almal net tot op donderdag wag en kyk hoe lyk die span en dan niks sal hoor te sê het.
Ja, 100%. 100%.
Yeah, Barry, and I think it's a great time now to just have Renier's opinion. I know there's a lot of people who want to hear just his opinion about what happened on Saturday, a 16-point margin against the All Blacks. The All Blacks never, in my opinion, maybe they defended well, but they just never looked apart. Although we as Springboks, we remained on the edge of our seats during that second half, because we knew that the New Zealand team, they could come back. We lost Faf early due to concussion. We had only one backline player, and Rugby it was Willie Leroux or Bank. We still remain on the edges of our seats, but it was just very comfortable, Renier, for a very dominant Springbok side.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I can't recall watching the Springboks play the All Blacks and being relatively relaxed. I mean, I watched the highlights again this morning and I thought to myself, they scored, well, the 3 points before halftime was a penalty, and the only reason they got that penalty is because the Islander rushed up at a scrum. That's self-imposed. They didn't do anything. They didn't trap him. He didn't hold the ball on the ground, blah, 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 blah. And even the try they scored, I mean, even a broken clock is right twice a day. So eventually gaan die All Blacks die lyn breek. Daar's nou nie om van weg te kom nie. Maar yes, they looked flow. They just looked like they weren't up for the challenge. I mean, you guys will know as well, watching Springbok rugby from an analytical point of view, jy moet braaf wees, meneer. Jy gaan baie tackles moet maak en jy gaan nogal moet hard wees. And it just looked like they were. Ek het so, en ek seker julle het ook gehoor, so 'n voice clip gekry hier in die week wat gesê het, dit lyk soos 'n graad 4 wat teen 'n graad 6 fight. Dus die graad 4 wat hy sit sy hande op en hy probeer sy bes, maar op die ou einde van die dag is hy net die, jy weet, hy's net die in die fight nie. So ek is nooit teleurgestel as die All Blacks verloor nie. Maar jy weet, ek gaan nou nie soos daai uncle aan die begin sy jersey gebrand het. Maar wen in die All Blacks is 'n wen in die All Blacks en dit vat ek met beide hande.
And to your point, I mean, it was a very strange game. You were, you know, in hindsight, you always like, but why did you stress for the full 80 minutes or 70 minutes? You were like, the Boks were comfortably, and like you said, they were very, very dominant. Probably since the World Cup, I haven't seen a performance like that since the final. And they were just dominant in all facets. But back to your point about the All Blacks, it just seems like they were trying to a point of not trying to take any hits. It seemed like they were always behind the line. They were always trying to, you know, get passes behind, you know, into space where a Vili was being hit, and you know the wings were just being caught, you know, off guard all the time. But their defense, I mean, firstly, it's almost non-existent, guys. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think you know they kept us at bay for quite some time in the first half. And almost I think it was more a bit of a momentum break with Faf getting injured. I think Jaden, you know, although we hit the ground running, we could see that there were quite a few moves. I remember the one where we moved the ball wide. Damien Delendi having a clear overlap, decided not to pass. It was just, you know, a Springbok side getting into their stride more so than the All Blacks keeping the Springboks at bay. And I think that was the illusion that they were defending very well. But I thought that the Springboks were very dominant. I think Malcolm Marx was just toiling with them at the breakdowns. Each and every run that he was making 3-4 meters. So I believe that the Springboks, like you said, they could have actually put 7 or 8 more points out of this game. You know, and in my opinion, a lot to think about, Renier, for Foster. He's made a few changes now with the Springbok side playing us on Saturday, but a lot to think about for Foster. It just doesn't look very seamless for this All Black side at the moment.
My thing is also something that we need to consider as well, is like, we mustn't get trapped thinking that making a lot of tackles means you had a good defensive performance. And that's your point, Nine. Like, the All Blacks made 125, 126 tackles, which is a lot for a test match, but it wasn't dominant. It wasn't like they were making our ball so much slower. And it's almost like that Damien Delendi break was, it's like he got the ball and he almost thought, hey, isn't someone supposed to be here now? And isn't there, why is there so much space around me? And blah, 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 blah. And again, I think if he gets the opportunity this week, the Boks scored that. That was, as I say, I mean, they made a lot of tackles, but I'm not so sure they were defensively up for the fight.
No, 100%. And with that said, I mean, the big change for me looking at the team this week was the fact that, I mean, we've been calling for Richie Mo'unga to be put on for a while. I think he would probably be more suited to playing against the Boks in terms of his positional play. Richie Mo'unga, again, fantastic player. Do you think that will make the difference? Albeit, Bowden Barrett was fantastic last week. Let's not get it wrong. He was actually brilliant, I think. from attacking. He had one break that he did from his try line. But Richie Mo'unga, does bring something else. What do you think on the fact that he's gone with Richie Mo'unga instead of Bowden?
If I'm Foster, which I would not for all the money in the world want to be, I would pick Richie Mo'unga to play 10, and I would pick him regularly, just because he's more my type of fly-off. I like a fly-off that's a bit more aggressive. I know that Bowden Barrett is a fantastic runner, and he is by far and away the most talented and most skillful player in that backline, so you almost want to pick him all the time. But I'd pick Mo'unga and say, look, we're going to kick him into the corners, and we need to beat these guys 6 points to 3 or 9 points to 3 or whatever. We're not going to score 4 tries against them. I'm with you guys. I'd pick Mo'unga every day of the week.
No, I think Alberic, looking at that backline, I'm not too sure about that front row. I'm not very familiar with all of them, but I also believe that Shannon Frizzell at number 6 improves the side. I think in the place of Akira Ioane, I think Shannon Frizzell is going to be a really physical with Scott Barrett and Sam Whitelock, obviously in the tight 5. But like Renier is mentioning, I think Richie Mo'unga improves the side for especially against the Springboks. You first need to get into good territory. You need to dominate territorial advantage to put the Springbok side under pressure. And with all respect to Bowden, he wants to run it. He ran right. He kept the ball in play and then started running from his own goal line spectacularly. But you first need to get into good territories. And Richie Mo'unga will do that. You punt the ball in between Damian Willemse, in behind Makazole Mapimpi, in behind Jesse Kriel, who's now be selected on the wing. And I think that is going to be the approach of Richie Mo'unga. I want to take it a step further. I would have swapped Jordy Barrett and Bowden Barrett around for this game. I'll tell you why. I think Bowden Barrett, perhaps from behind and at fullback, maybe he's got a better territorial kicking game than Jordy. I know Jordy is good in the air. I think he's a great aerial player. I think he's great attacking. But it seems to me that he does not have the tactical game. And yes, we know that he's the goal kicker of the side, but with Richie Mo'unga, I'm pretty sure Richie will take over that responsibility. But again, Foster, the safe selector, he didn't want to make too many changes, Renier.
Yeah, I think, look, I mean, I'm with you as well. Again, I pick Bowden at 15 and say, look, if the ball comes your way, we need a bit more experience there at the back, and we need a guy that's a bit more wakker. Because the thing is, the Boks are so good at the moment at putting pressure on a weaker player. When it comes to, it looked like, and I'm not saying David Avili is a weak player, but they took all the time away from him. I'm not saying Will Jordan is a bad player, but Lucanio Alman and the boys took all his time away from him. And that's what they do. And I think that's what they did to Jordy Barrett last week as well. It almost looked like he was out of sorts, like he's not comfortable in what he's doing. He had no time to play. And that's why I'm saying if you're not going to have a lot of time, I'd pick Bowden Barrett and put a bit of magic in the starting 15 and hope for something special.
I think with that said, I think to your point, Heine, I think the fact that I think Steve Hansen tried to do it in the last World Cup by bringing those two playmakers onto the field, which was Bowden and Richie Mo'unga. The fact that they are game breakers in their own sense, and I think to your point, I think that would have been a massive, if they continue that flow from the World Cup, I think they would have really evolved in something very special. With regards to what you spoke about, just touched briefly on that center pairing. Ricky Ioane, vir my, ek weet nou nie of hy baie lig is nie, maar I don't think he has the goods at the moment, to play in that position. And David Avili, again, like you mentioned, he is a good player, but they're looking very average against a very, very well kind of established Bok center pairing. How do they turn things around in a week based on what we see now last week?
It's moeilijk, man, because the thing is, I mean, you can turn things around. It's 80 minutes and history means nothing when the Boks play the All Blacks. But it's like we all said, I mean, they look like a team that have no idea who they are. They look like they're going through a transition. There was never a position. I mean, guys under the high ball bumping into one another, giving our guys a clean path through the high ball. That's stuff that you kind of figure out by playing together and working together and whatever the case may be. Ek is 'n groot Rico Ioni fan. Ek dink hy's great. But he looks as a first uit water uit if you put him next to So hulle, the midfield of Havili and Rico they're good players. I think Super Rugby level, you pick them. If we had the opportunity to pick them, we'd probably pick them too. But I just don't think that they know how to use these guys. I think that Foster's trying to play a game that's based on attack, and that's why you have a guy like Rico there, because he's a strong ball carrying 13. He likes running the ball around. Same thing with Bowden, likes running the ball. But unfortunately, at test match level, that doesn't work. That's why, I mean, a guy like Conrad Smith, greatest All Black if you ask me. A guy like Mananu, fantastic All Black midfielder. Because firstly, they were willing to make 15 to 20 tackles in a game. They were willing to carry the ball 12, 13 times straight into contact. These guys weren't trying to make space. They weren't trying to be flair and this and that. They were willing to, look, if we're going to score points, we'd score them. But if you guys want to fight with us for 80 minutes, we're in. Yeah. And I think they're just, at the moment, they're not willing to fight the fight with us. Can they fix it? Yes, because, I mean, I'm not going to be the guy that says no. But will they fix it? I think a week is not enough time.
Not enough time. Let's just have a look. We've got Stefan Leroux. Hy wil net weet wat Renier dink die feit dat Arend se uit is, gaan dit 'n groot impak. Ek is nog 'n groot impak op ons spel hê. Ons weet natuurlik nie nader wat gekies het om vir Jesse Kriel nader te trek.
Ja, ek dink dit gaan 'n impak hê. Ek dink dit gaan 'n groot verskil maak. Ja, Stefan, thanks vir die vraag, man. Ek dink dit gaan 'n groot verskil maak. Ek sou ook persoonlik vir Jesse gekies het in sy plek en net vir hom sê dat Appel, jy is net hier om hy bal te jaag heel dag lank. Want jy weet ten minste wat jy gaan kry uit hom uit. Wat sê julle manne? Ek meen, wat dink julle van die feit dat Jesse gekies is en wat dink julle van die feit dat Arend se uit is? Wat sê julle twee?
Ja, kyk, ek
dink hy het 'n rooi kaart gekry en well deserved.
Ja, well deserved.
Well deserved. Unfortunately, one of those things, but yeah.
Ja, nee, ek dink Arend se groot verlies. Ek dink jy weet, ek was bietjie bekommerd, jy weet, is nie maklik om in te kom teen die All Blacks nie. Die mense gepraat 'n like selection vir Cheslin Kobe, maar Kurt Lee het 'n ongelooflike toetswedstryd gehad. Hy was ongelooflik goed. Hy was bereid om sy liggaam op die spel te sit. Hy was goed onder die hoë bal. Hy was goed teen 'n verskriklike sterk Caleb Clark. Het hy net die ou lank genoeg besig gehou vir Lucanio om 'n paar keer van die kant af hulp te bied. Ek dink Kurt Lee was fantasties. Net 'n klein bietjie oorgretig met hy ligskoppie waar hy vir Bowden Barrett uithaal, wat natuurlik die rooi kaart aan hom besorg, maar what a performance. En naas Malcolm Marx dink ek was Kurt Lee die tweede beste Springbok op hy veld Saterdag in my beskeie opinie.
I think just on that, I mean, we speak about Jesse Kriel for a second there as well. I mean, Jesse Kriel, a lot of, he's probably the one player that's 50-50. People will say, yes, he's good. Yes, he's, some people say, no, he's not. What Jesse Kriel brings, and regardless of the fact that he hasn't been, he's been in the box setup for a while, but he hasn't been playing, in the starting 15 or probably from the bench for a very long time. He does bring a hell of a lot of experience. I think he was probably in the game when I think Pat Lambie won. I think it's the last time he won the All Blacks in 2014. If I'm not mistaken, he was in that team, but he brings experience. He scored a try or two against the All Blacks. He does bring that grittiness, that kind of doggedy attitude that you need against this backline. And I don't think it would be too bad a move based on the fact I wouldn't have thrown in Kalen Moody so early in such a big game. But yeah, definitely. I mean, based on experience, I understand why the option would have gone for Jesse Kriel. I think there's one more comment, guys. Kan die Boogeyman Amse opvolger wees? Sorry guys, wie is die Boogeyman?
Boogeyman is Warwick Galant.
Warwick Galant.
Warwick Galant of praat hulle van highlight wat 13 speel by Paul Roos nou Lorenzo Julius.
Maybe in terms of coming up. Yeah, I think there's the one question we also spoke about a few weeks ago, Renier, was die feit dat omdat Am so goed is op die oomblik en hoe belangrik is dit vir ons weet byvoorbeeld dat Damon kan inskuif op 12 as dit so moet wees. But those two players, utility back in Damon getting injured, a world-class player like going off with the injury, hopefully, and we don't want to speak any bad putting it out there, but there has to be some more depth put into the line. I think that's what the All Blacks had for many years, which made them the team for the last decade to be beaten. Who do you think is next in line?
I think we rely too much on the concept of a utility back. I hate the idea of it. It annoys me. I understand it because the fact is you can't have 6 substitutes on the bench just for the backs, So I understand the concept of having a Damien Willems there that can cover 10, 12, 15. For me, the thing is, I don't think we've got I would love to say, if goes down, this is our guy. If it's Boogie, then sure. I mean, try him out in the position. Let's see what happens. But for example, we haven't got, out of the Sharks, Bulls, Lions, Cheetahs, Stormers, not one of their first choice outside centers is in the Springbok squad even.
Yeah.
No one now. There's no Van der Kok. So, I mean, however it works, we haven't got the guy that's technically the best 13 in the country is Lukhanyo and that's great, and I agree with that. But we don't really know who the next guy is. And I, for one, would like to make sure that the spare tire is in the car before I leave for France for the World Cup, because if we lose, it might be a bit of a tough learning curve for someone to figure that out quickly. They're probably going to move. I mean, Warwick is a bad rupee. He's probably got the skill set to cover the position, but I would like to know clearly who's my second in charge 13. I'd like to know that.
No, for sure. Before we say good night, Renier, I think we need to just look and pop in the Springbok side. There's a lot of surprises. It's been the big welcome back. Obviously, Dwayne Vermeulen back at number 8. The big surprise is that Bongi Benambe has gone down with an injury. He's still on that team sheet. He is out, and he will be replaced by Dweba. Strangely enough, Dweba comes straight into the starting lineup and not in the place of Malcolm Marx on the bench. Malcolm Marx remained on the bench, and Dweba right into the thick of things. He will start against the All Blacks. Renier, interesting selection, but a lot of sense behind it. Your opinion on that? The first choice getting injured, and then Dweba just leapfrogging Malcolm right into the starting lineup.
I kind of like the idea of doing it that way. Firstly, it puts a lot of trust in a player, which I enjoy a coach doing. I enjoy it when a coach says, I'll trust you to get the job done. But if it goes, balls up early on and Dweba isn't the guy, then at least you've got Malcolm on the bench. If we lose Malcolm early, like we lost Faf last weekend, and we put Dweba on the field and he doesn't have the chops to make it, then we might be in a bit of trouble. So I think Jacques Hinaber and his team might have had their hand forced a little bit to pick Dweba at 2. I enjoy the fact that he's there. I think he's going to have a massive performance. He's got the likes of Ox next to him, and France playing his 50th at tight head. So I think he's got a forward pack that you could only dream of. I mean, if you look at this forward pack around him, there's no one there that you'd pick above 1 to 8. So I think as far as getting an opportunity to play, that's the pack you want to play with. And Malcolm as a bailout, I mean, he was so good last week. Maybe they're just giving him an extra little bit of rest. And I kind of enjoy the fact that they're putting Dweba in the starting lineup. I think Dweba is going to shock a lot of people with his performance.
Great.
And with that said, Joseph Dweba just got into the team, guys. There you go. There we go. So like you said, there's a dream pack. It's we've got so much depth in our loose forwards. We've got so much depth in the tight 5. Obviously, I mean that's a dream that the All Blacks would love to have right now. In fact, looking forward to the fact, and we should take it a step further going into the end of year 2. The fact that you had players like Vincent Koch, plying their trade overseas, do you think they'll get more of game time? And yes, we're looking very far ahead, but do you think that those players will get more game time playing in Northern Hemisphere conditions against the Irish, against the French towards the end of the year?
Yeah, I'd expect a guy like Vincent Koch to get a lot of running time in the North. Same with Jasper Wiese, same with Joseph Dweba as well, because he plays in France. So I think they will rely heavily on guys like that. Also, it lightens the workload on some of the more It takes the workload out of Dwayne that he doesn't have to play 4 tests at the end of the year. Jasper Wiese is there. I like the idea of having the players that play season in, year out in the north to kind of shepherd the pack around the field, but also with URC at the minute, all our guys are getting experience playing in places like Ireland and Scotland and Wales. So I think it's only going to get better and better. But yeah, for now, I'd get a guy like Koch and Wiese and these boys. I'll give them a little bit more time.
No, for sure. So there we have it, our team that will face the Springbok side, or the All Black side, our Springbok team. The one thing that I just would have loved to have seen is with Dwayne Vermeulen being back. I think it was an ideal opportunity, especially with Franco Mostert on the bench, with Peter Steve the Toy on the field. Ideal opportunity to have perhaps given Ivan Roos a run from the bench. I just believe he brings something different from the bench. In Jasper, you have just a guy to cover up if Dwayne goes down. You have a like-for-like selection. I would have just loved to have seen in the mix a guy like Ivan Roos with the insurance now that you have Dwayne Vermeulen on the field. Perhaps he's not going to last 80 minutes. You have something different at number 8 to come onto the field. But obviously, Ninaber, he wants to really roughen up the All Blacks. He's gone full out physical, and obviously he knows best. So Jasper would come off the bench instead of Ivan Roos. Just my opinion, Renier.
I'm with you 100%. I think it's the perfect time to do it now, and to give a guy like Ivan a chance to run the All Blacks at Ellis Park packed. I think that's massive. But like you said, I mean, Jasper Wiese, when he comes onto the field, is going to be a wrecking ball. He's going to run it straight, and that's what he does. So I think Jacques Ninaber is making sure that he doesn't slip on something that. I mean, he'll be the first Bok coach in a very long time to beat the All Blacks twice, which for him as a CV is a big thing. That's a front page note, and for him, I think that's major. And I'd be picking bullies in this field. I think Ivan Roos is fantastic. I think Albert Lowe is fantastic. Again, there's a lot of test rugby to come, and against Argentina and Australia, sure, let those boys run. But for now, I want Jasper Wiese, and I say, in the last 20 minutes, I want you to run as hard as you can at Ardie Sevilla, and let's break these boys properly. Let's see if they want to stay in the fight or not.
Right, man. Right.
A few comments coming through. Richard Rasmus said that like die Bok het meer spelers met leier eienskappe en dis 'n leemte by die All Blacks. Point. I think that's also, we've seen, I think in the last part of the game, there were some comments made about Ardie Sevilla stepping in where Sam Kane kind of stepped back, and that's us just looking from the outside in. So good point there. Ashraf Suleiman would say that changes sal niks verander nie. Ek dink Bomb Squad is so teer in hul gesigte. For sure, I think the Bomb Squad does speak volumes. And Stephen Leroux, ek weet nou nie ek wil die comment delete nie, maar as los het maar, maak die bulle almal bokke. Stephen Leroux, nee.
Stefan sê jy net so een of twee daar agter die braai gaan drink terwyl mamma dit sien.
Voor vir jou gaan groet. Ek dink dit was 'n absolute groot eer om saam met jou te praat. Voor jy kan groet. Ek dink as baie jong mense daar buitekant, en soos jy kan sien, wil ons ook jong sport media mannetjies daar buitekant inspireer om te sê, al het jy net 'n show soos ons en waar maar net 'n paar 100 mense miskien inskakel. Hy boodskap van jou af vir jong manne buitekant wat in Renier se voetspore wil volg van Kruivenwyk af reg op en vandag op ons televisiekassie. Wat is jou boodskap van hoop vir die mense buite?
Vir my dink ek die belangrikste ding is wat julle ouens doen, is wat ek dink wat julle ouens doen is belangriker as wat ek doen. Ek is vir 80 minute praat ons rugby op 'n Saterdag en vir die res van die week niks. Ons moet die conversation praat en hê wat ons dit wil hê. En as jy dit wil hê op Instagram, then you should be encouraged to do it. As jy dit wil hê op 'n podcast, then you should be encouraged to do it. Mens moenie, don't believe the hype of barriers to entry. That is rubbish. Take a thing with your friends, however you want to do it. Take the platform. YouTube is free, Instagram is free, TikTok is free. Gebruik dit, bou 'n audience. Raak gewoond aan 'n kamera in jou gesig en when the call comes and I can promise you this, ons by SuperSport weet van elke produksie, van elke show, van elke ding wat aan die gang is, want julle ouens bou 'n audience. En ons wil altyd daai audience involve en ons wil seker maak dat ons hou die audience tevrede. So vir 'n jong persoon wat wil betrokke raak in dit, obviously, as jy die opportunity het om mense te shadow of whatever, cool, go for it. Maar op die einde van die dag, like, as jy een van die bad boys het, dan jy weet, dan is jy content creator en jy kan podcast en jy kan shows doen soos julle. Ek meen, die production value van wat julle hier aan die gang het, en is messages wat oppop, en is, jy weet, dis nie net 'n Zoom chat hier. Julle ouens sit bietjie in die production value en vir julle audience beteken dit baie, want dit lyk asof julle, daar's effort wat in dit ingaan. Ek dink wat julle doen is amazing. Meer mense moet dit doen, en ek meen van my kant af, ek is baie lucky en baie bevoorreg in wat ek doen, maar ek dink wat julle ouens doen is amazing. Ons moet die game aanpraat, nie net rugby nie, enige sport. We gotta encourage conversation en ons moet dit praat en hanteer sodat ons dit wil hanteer. Dis ons game, ons kan met dit doen wat ons wil.
Brilliant.
Love that.
Brilliant.
Love that.
Renier, van ons kant af, ek weet nie of jy gesien het, ons slogan sê, we encourage a culture of recognition, is in Engels, waar ons net vir ouens soos jy dankie sê, man, dankie dat jy altyd so positief is, dankie dat jy jou storie vanaand saam met ons kom deel het, en ek is seker as mense aanlyn wat luister en sê, jy weet, the sky's the limit for me as well, as ou soos Renier, die vrymoedigheid het om met 'n boekie uit te gaan kry en wie toe skouers te skuur met jou Blyden en kyk waar hy vandag sit op die televisie en saam met ons rugby gesels, is daar geleenthede daar buitekant vir een en elk. So van ons kant af vir die Têkkel Talk Show, fantasties om jou, ek wil amper sê in persoon wees saam met jou te gesels, maar ons wens jou alles wat goed is op die kassie, en ons hoop om 'n paar jaar van nou af jou te sien, hoogvlieg as een van die ankers van die groot kletsprogramme op Supersport, of wie weet, oor see, een van ons heel eie. So baie dankie en baie sterkte vorentoe met die werk wat jy doen.
Dankie man. Een ding wat ek net wil sê voor ek goed ook, is ek meen baie ouens kyk julle show en is ouens wat jy weet, dis dalk 'n eienaar van 'n klein business, 'n printing business of 'n verwinkel of wat ook al die geval mag wees. Hulle moet betrokke raak om julle ouens te sponsor. Jy weet, bietjie geld agter julle te sit en te kyk of julle nie op pad kan kom nie. Sit die show, vat Têkkel Talks en hierdie goeters na die live games toe en al daai goeters. So ouens moet betrokke raak, sponsor en help om julle ook te groei. Dis baie belangrik dat ons ouens soos julle encourage en na die volgende level te vat.
Dankie.
Dankie man.
Die check is in the mail. The check is in the mail, Renier. Sê maar net.
Renier, ongelooflik om saam met jou te praat. Ou soos Renier van Zeuner. Daai ou het nou net die regte goed gesê en wie weet, miskien is daar ou met 'n slaghuis of 'n spyswinkel of 'n drankwinkel of wat ook al. Wat wil sê, kom ons back die Têkkel boys en wie weet, miskien kan die Têkkel Talk Show eendag ook daar so saam met Renier skouers stuur op Supersport, wie weet.
No, 100%. And just listening to his message, I think he's such inspiration. He's a young guy. I mean, he's really a fantastic ambassador for the sport. And just his insight is amazing, especially listening to what he would be speaking about the Kremlin week and remembering all these players' names. It just shows the kind of in-depth knowledge that he has. So it's great to see it. Fantastic to see. So yeah, the sky's the limit, guys.
En vir julle aanlyn, baie dankie dat julle uitgekom het. Ek weet daar is hordes comments gewees. 'n uur het verbygevlieg. Dit was so lekker om met Renier te praat dat ons hier eintlik trek gehou het met tyd nie, maar baie dankie dat julle weer hierdie donderdag ingeskakel het. Elberik, I'm not going to leave without putting you on the spot. Will the Springboks beat the All Blacks twice and will they be victorious at Ellis Park?
No, for sure, 100%. I think they're gonna be. But it has to be. I think that the Boks are on a big height. They've got momentum. They've got a lot going for them right now, and I don't see a performance less than last week coming from them this week around. I think they've got enough motivation. Ons het genoeg pak gekry oor die jare van die All Blacks af, and I think it's this time they just put the nail in the coffin and make sure there's we can come away with a W.
Yeah, and verseker. So those of you that is playing our Super Brew pool, make sure you get your picks in early. Make sure that you get your picks in before kickoff. The games between the All Blacks and South Africa, Australia versus Argentina, and then obviously have your say. We've seen some Têkkel mail where Furlow and all the other guests WhatsApp their fan mail or their fan WhatsApp to 065-218-8511. Drop us a WhatsApp, send us a comment, or more importantly, your pictures and your videos. Ons wil sien jy is in groen en goud en jy kan dan natuurlik ook in aanmerking kom vir hierdie sublimated rugby trui. Speel in ons Super pool, Têkkel die pool code daar so ook en jy kan net op Super gaan en tik net in die Têkkel code of jy kan hy pool code intik om deel te raak van ons Super pool en daar kan jy kyk of jy bo Elberg en myself kan eindig of gaan ons die bragging rights het en bo kan julle eindig. Op die oomblik is dit ek bo kan Elberg en wie weet, miskien hierdie naweek laat ek 'n venstertjie oop vir Elberg om reg te raai en volgende week bo kan my te eindig. Ja, wie? Enige laaste woorde van jou kant af voor ons groet?
I think I'll go for a wild card. Let's go All Blacks this weekend. Kom speel maar die bluff.
Richie Mo'unga is starting. I'm telling you, Richie Mo'unga is starting. He improves the Springbok, the All Black side. He's making them a better side. I'm not saying Bowden Barrett is a poor player, but against the Springboks, you want a player that can pinpoint. So I don't know. Maybe I'm still keeping my cards close to my chest, but you need to be very, very brave to bet against the Springbok side. I'm telling you, they are a very, very, very well-oiled machine. Tot volgende week, Daniel Berg. Next week, Thursday, we'll have another guest, but then obviously we will reveal whether we've beaten the All Blacks twice in South Africa, and if we do that, as Foster se uitbetaling by die unemployment camp is nie fair nie. So kom ons kyk of ons natuurlik vir hom sterktes in die bene kan huis toe stuur en moontlik sonder 'n werk. Tot volgende week, Daniel B. Goed gaan en aan julle aanlyn. Cheers, stay safe. Têkkel Talk volgende week donderdag. Bye bye.